For the first time all year, the Eagles did not lead the game at halftime. Who was it against? Everyone's prediction, of course, the Houston Texans. In the end, the Eagles did what they were supposed to do. They came out and won the football game. They had a tough time tackling Dameon Pierce, but the Eagles, like I said, did what they were supposed to do. Jalen Hurts, 243 for 2 touchdowns, 21 for 27. Miles Sanders scored a touchdown. Kenny Gainwell scored a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 8 receptions for 100 yards. We kind of all saw this result coming. I think the Texans played hard. I think they have played hard for most of the season outside of when they have to face Derrick Henry. But I'll cut the Houston Texans a little slack here. They played a good game in primetime.
Yeah, fair enough. The Texans did play their little hearts out in overtime. Biggest problem with the Texans so far for me is just the Eagles came out and they did what they were supposed to do, basically what they've done the entire season. I don't think they've had a game or a week where they've been considered the underdogs to start the year, which is an impressive feat in and of itself. They went off of the best year they've had in a couple of years last year and built upon it in ways that I don't think any of us initially intended to see, the A.J. Brown deal being the initial crux of that start. All of their additions have been hits. Bradbury, in the rich get richer. They added Robert Quinn at the trade deadline this year. This is a unit that is not only great, but it's improving week in and week out. Miles Sanders had another great week for the Eagles, 93 yards and 5.5 yards per carry and a touchdown. Dameon Pierce is the guy in Houston for now. We'd love to see young running backs succeed, but they're few and far between. They're very replaceable at this level in the NFL, and I'll be surprised to see how Dameon Pierce ages with Houston because I think everyone's expendable outside of Stingley and some of their younger core pieces. Eagles take care of business on Thursday night, providing more points than the first couple of matchups combined for. So it was a good football game. The conclusion was never in doubt for me. Houston can put up points, but to that end, the Eagles defense will bend, but I don't think it's going to break for a while. And Sirianni is just going to outcoach most guys week in and week out. The dude's passion is there, and his mind seems to be as locked in as anybody.
Biggest take from this game for me is with seeing Dameon Pierce get 27 carries for 139, averaging 5.5 yards a carry, is to see how that will translate to future Eagles opponents. They do have to face the Titans, who are notoriously will run the ball down your throat. So facing Derrick Henry is no easy task. They have to face the Cowboys again with hopefully Dak Prescott, and we'll see if Zeke and Tony Pollard can kind of expose that in a sense. It could be a one-off thing. You know, Dameon Pierce had a good week. The Eagles sure up their defense. You're good to go. But that is something for me to see moving forward is if their run defense may be their one weakness or if they'll shore it up in a couple weeks and be just fine.
I also feel that for this Eagles team, they're going to play the role of this season's chameleon, for lack of better terms. Their personnel and their offensive and defensive pieces allow them to play to whatever design they need to for that week. Like offensively, Jalen Hurts threw for almost 250 yards and 2 scores, while at the same time, Sanders went for almost 100 yards himself. If they want to control the clock and pound the ball, they have the personnel to do it. And if they want to air it out and kind of mix it up through the air, they have the personnel to do that. And with Hurts becoming more and more accurate, they seem to be like, I wouldn't say they have the Konami code at this point, but they're figuring it out at an alarming rate. Like being able to not only win on the ground, but also through the air now with Jalen Hurts. It's going to be really hard to stop these guys. And I don't know when I'm going to see their first loss pile up. Yeah. Bill Belichick versus rookie quarterbacks. Or
Sam
first
Ehlinger,
quarterbacks.
15 for 29, 103 yards and interception. Sacked 9 times. This Colts franchise is completely fucked. Ever since Andrew Luck left, it's been a carousel of I wish Andrew Luck had the line Brian Hoyer and Jacoby Brissett did. I wish he had the line Phillip Rivers did, because then the Colts might have made a deep run in the playoffs. Phillip Rivers was their best shot they've had in the last 4 years. Carson Wentz blew it last year with poorly timed interceptions. Matt Ryan got benched, and now Sam Ehlinger is getting his head kicked in. They were 0 for 14 on third down. 0 for 14. What is this team going to do? They fired Frank Reich today, which, if you look at his record, I believe it's 40, 33, and 1 in his tenure. And with what he's been given, that's kind of impressive. But at the same time, Jim Irsay is extremely impatient at this point. And, well, he's gone. You bring in Jeff Saturday, because the first person I think of when I want a new head coach is a high school coach. Cool. So I'm not going to get into race or anything like that. I'm white. I can't speak on race. But Jeff Saturday getting that job is a joke in more ways than one. They've leveraged the future a little bit for Carson Wentz, for Matt Ryan, and they just have literally nowhere to go. And I'm going to say this about a decent amount of franchises today, and some of them can get passes because they leveraged it for Super Bowl wins. What have they leveraged for? They don't have a damn thing to show for it. This franchise is a joke. It's literally a joke. They are 3-5-1. Titans are going to run away with this division, and they're starting Malik Willis week to week with a practice squad.
This is the outcome to the modern, Luck. The thing about the NFL for the longest time for me, circa 1990 or even 1980s through the 2000s to 2010s, the best franchises tended to get a little bit lucky. And hear me out. Obviously, the best franchises win because they're the best franchises, and they either have the most money, best personnel, they draft the best players. But there's luck involved in a lot of this stuff, especially at the NFL level. The severity of injuries can taper off depending on players' careers, situations. There's a lot of luck involved, in my eyes, just in the happenstance and chance of things happening. The Indianapolis Colts are on that list from 1998 to 2015 of being one of the most fortunate organizations in the NFL. They went from having a top 3 guy in Peyton Manning to having the next best prospect since a Peyton Manning. I can't overstate how important that is. And now we're seeing with these franchises that have gone from generational guy to a generational guy. Look at the Niners from the 80s to the 90s. You go from Joe Montana to Steve Young. And yes, they didn't even draft Steve Young, but you get the sentiment behind this. Favre to Rodgers. These franchises have had incredibly, inspiringly, lucky runs of just talent where they were we have our main guy, and lo and behold, they were able to, by circumstance, bring in the heir apparent that is just as good, if not better, than the predecessor. You know what I'm saying? And so we're looking at the Packers later on in the episode, but eventually luck runs dry. And I feel like the thing with having these generational talents is you go in and year out, and they lost Andrew Luck, but they had the pieces around Andrew to compete. So you can't punt the entire team away because you lost the quarterback. The Colts have been a prisoner of the moment since the moment Andrew Luck retired in the preseason. So they've been trying to just patchwork together a sustainable quarterback, and every single time they've failed. And now, because of these failed attempts to bring in the quarterbacks, their roster's older. Their number one receiver through that entire Colts run was T.Y. Hilton, and he was a damn good receiver. And now, yes, Michael Pittman has emerged a bit, but it's one thing whenever you have emergent receivers with respectable quarterbacks, but now there's no consistency.
Michael Pittman? Paris
Exactly.
Campbell, Alec Pierce.
Exactly, and that's my point. We're seeing more and more in the modern NFL. Luck doesn't matter as much. Analytics are taking over. Player health is getting better. There's far less happenstance to what's going on. You get what I'm saying? The best players are usually picked up on pretty quickly, and if they're not, teams are eyeing them in later parts of the drafts. Justin Fields slid for whatever reason in his respective draft, but we're seeing now, the writing's on the wall. That I don't think we're going to be seeing these 20-year prolonged periods of time of players in franchises having generational quarterback to generational quarterback. There's going to be breaks in the pattern because, yes, Alex Smith was good, but he's not close to a Patrick Mahomes. And I think the closest thing we're going to see to it moving forward in the next 5-10 years is what Phillip Rivers leading to us drafting Justin Herbert. It takes a Herculeanly unlucky season for that to happen. The Chargers were a really good team that were insanely hurt that year and got dropped into the 6th spot in the draft. But you get what I'm saying with the sentiment. It's incredibly hard to go from great quarterback to great quarterback, and the Colts are living proof. And honestly, after Luck retired, I wish they would have bottomed out, because the thing is, in today's NFL, the older quarterbacks are getting, the more money they're making, and the smaller the margin of error is. And we're going to see that moving forward with 3 other teams that you've mentioned to me off camera.
Right. And where are they even going to go? They have the number 14 pick right now. That's not going to get you a quarterback unless you're taking Hendon Hooker. But I don't think Hendon Hooker may be worth a first-round pick. It's close, but I just don't know. And then even if you take somebody like Hendon Hooker at 14, because I think Bryce and CJ are gone,
They're
and the other quarterback, the other quarterback, I can't think of his name right
Richardson,
now.
or is it the guy from Kentucky?
The Kentucky guy.
Will Levis.
Will Davis, Will Levis, something like that.
Yeah.
I think he's gone in top 10 as well. So generally, Richardson or Hooker are kind of your next picks, and neither of them can survive behind that line. I'll say it again.
Well,
Sam Ehlinger got sacked 9 times. 9 times. That is an insane number.
Jim Irsay, this is the point where you put up or shut up. You are the owner of this team. You have allowed this to continually happen. Post Manning, you let him go. You sucked. You got Andrew Luck. Congratulations. You wasted the prime of Andrew Luck and he retired. If you are sold on this team's window being now, this is when you make a trade. And I'm not talking about a Carson Wentz. I'm not talking about a Matt Ryan. These lateral moves for the Indianapolis Colts have gotten them nowhere. You go after Aaron Rodgers because the Packers are done. I don't know how they get better. I don't know what happens to where they are going to be even remotely close to leading that division until the Vikings subside for some reason. But like at this point, the Packers, it's weird to say move on from Aaron Rodgers, but the Colts need to take a swing for a proven quarterback. And I think Aaron Rodgers is a name that they should try to pursue. Offer 2 first-round draft picks. Stop dipping your toes in the water. If you're all in, you have to go all in. The Titans are all in. They are here right now winning the division year after year. And if you're cool with them winning, collapse, tank, because the Jaguars are getting better. And even though the Texans have not had an identity since Andrew Luck was almost a rookie, they are still doing better than the Colts are. The Colts are without a paddle. So either go all in one way or go all in another way. But this Jim Irsay thing with bringing in the new quarterbacks, the GM should be fired, in my opinion, as well.
Not even close. 100%.
Jeff Saturday being brought in is a figurehead to sell tickets for the rest of this season and someone that can galvanize the players, quote unquote, because he was in their shoes. This is not a man that has any experience at an NFL level. This is a PR stunt to try and save ticket revenue for a lost season of a terrible football
team. It's a joke. It's a joke. It is literally one of the stupidest things I've seen all year that could have happened. I wanted Frank Reich gone, don't get me wrong. I didn't think Frank Reich was really the guy, and I don't think their GM should have a job either at this point. Everybody below Jim Irsay, even Jim Irsay, but Jim Irsay leaves when Jim Irsay says. Everybody else below him, hightail, get the fuck out of here.
I don't think Frank Reich deserved to be fired more so than Chris Ballard. I think the GM has done a terrible job with this franchise. And personally, I think if Frank Reich gets fired, he obviously got fired. He's making $200,000 weekly for the next 4 years. But I digress. If Frank Reich wants to coach again, he will be one of the top candidates moving forward for any vacated position. The Raiders would love Frank Reich. The Broncos would probably love to have Frank Reich in-house. He goes from one of the worst situations in football to having one of the – he's got to be up there on lists in terms of next head coaching vacancy. because Reich was not a bad head coach. I think Reich was dealt a tremendously bad hand.
Nobody was going to succeed in the situation he was given. Jeff Saturday will not succeed in the situation that he's given.
Well, the thing is, the Colts have been consistently inconsistent since the days of Chuck Pagano. We forget that Bruce Arians was the interim that really led those Colts teams for a solid chunk there with Andrew Luck whenever Pagano got cancer. Pagano came back. Pagano wasn't getting it done. He gets fired, and they bring in Frank Reich, and it's been a lot of the same. But the inconsistency after Frank Reich got brought in was roster-wise. They could never keep a quarterback on roster. And it would be one thing if they were moving vertically. None of the moves post Andrew Luck were moves where they were moving in a vertical manner to try and upgrade the team. It was year by year moving horizontally from player A to player B to player C. And the problem is every horizontal move hasn't been in a forward progression direction. They're just regressing. Wentz was worse.
I mean, yeah, they're not even horizontal moves at this point. Like, it's literally went from Philip Rivers' playoff appearance to Carson Wentz barely missing the playoffs to Matt Ryan being in a dumpster fire of a football team.
And Jacoby Brissett didn't play bad the one year he was starting for them. That's the thing. It's like they're literally downgrading by choice every offseason the last 4 years. That's Chris Ballard. That's not Frank Reich.
Carson Wentz was carried by Jonathan Taylor.
Carson Wentz had a tremendous year comparatively to every other year he's had in the last 3. Last year with the Colts, he had some terrible picks at terrible times. He threw 7 of them. Matt Ryan hit that number by week 4 this year. The Colts are bad. Congrats to Bill Belichick for beating up on first-year quarterbacks. I know Ellinger was drafted last year, if I'm correct. Matt Judon, Defensive Player of the Year. He's leading the league in sacks. It's a good year to be a Patriots fan. It's a good year to like the AFC East. East divisions are on fire. Aaron. Matt LaFleur, fraud, ?
Yeah. Sounds like it, doesn't it? I mean, we've talked about this for forever now, of 25 years of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and you got 2 Super Bowls. And now you're at the end of, you don't have a successor. You got Jordan Love, but how many games has Jordan Love played since he's gotten drafted? 2?
1. 2.
1.
Spot starts whenever Aaron got COVID. The Packers are bad. Aaron Jones has a high ankle sprain. I'm not sure the severity, but he's going to be out. Romeo Doubs got carted off the field this week. After Alan Lazard, the next 2 leading receivers were Josiah DeGuara and Samori Toure. Aaron, it's all your fault, and I can't blame anybody else besides Aaron Rodgers. There's a reason why Tom Brady is aged like fine wine. He just genuinely didn't make as much money as his play warranted off the field. Tom Brady took pay cuts for the better part of 15 years, and he won because of it. Peyton could have taken pay cut. Every other quarterback in the league could make less money, and their team would be better off because of it. And I'm not saying they have to, but whenever you're as old as Aaron Rodgers is, and your team is as far along as yours is, somebody's got to give at some point, because Devontae Adams costs a lot of money. The Raiders are proving as to why he's worth every penny, regardless of their record. Derek Carr and Adams are an insane connection, regardless of how you look at it. But who didn't see this coming? Aaron Rodgers isn't the offense. To sit here and say that he hasn't had supporting casts of all-pro, Pro Bowl type players would just be ridiculous. I understand it's been bleak for portions of time, but he went from having Greg Jennings and Donald Driver to Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb to Devontae Adams and Martellus Bennett. It was one of the Bennett brothers. It was Mercedes Lewis. He had Jermichael Finley. He had Eddie Lacy for those years that he was good. He's had Aaron Jones. He's had Jamal Williams. The list goes on. He had Jimmy Graham for years. I don't get at what point do we stop and just say, maybe part of it is Aaron's fault. I get it. Your special team sucks some years. I get it. Your defense gives up on you at times. But you played against the worst defense in the NFL, and you mustered 9 points. Mason Crosby is your team's MVP in this game, and you throw 3 interceptions? I get Aaron Rodgers.
In the red zone. All of them were in the red zone.
Aaron is the reason why this team is so bad this year. The defense, the coordinators, and all that stuff, yes, Aaron can't play defense, but offensively, the dysfunction could be directly linked to the massive contract he signed in the offseason. He takes that cut because he's made millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. This is not his first extension. Aaron has made his money. So, personally, for me, a man that has laid stake to his MVP claims on the back of a Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, you get what I'm saying. Like Aaron
Rodgers over the course of his career has earned $305 million.
Let me look at Devontae Adams just to give it put it into perspective. Quarterbacks get more paydays. On average, they have longer careers. So Devontae Adams to this day has earned. Come on. So in his 1 year, $20 million on the franchise tag, $58 million. He's made far less in his career than Aaron Rodgers to this point. Aaron Rodgers is bad. Multiple extensions. Devontae was up for his first big money type deal. I don't get why Aaron Rodgers needed to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, aside from his bank account. Because he's made the money to have wealth for the rest of his days and the rest of whoever he decides to bequeath his funds to. Just generally speaking, he has made an insurmountable amount of money. And yeah, it helps whenever Tom was married to Giselle, and she's worth more than he is. That said and done, that's off the table. But you get what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
This is a self-inflicted blow by the Green Bay Packers.
100%.
They've been cap merchants for a while now, and they refuse to pay a top 5 receiver in football.
And I'm just going to come out. I'm just going to come out and say it real quick. Does the fact that this team lacks a true owner matter?
100%, 100%. It helps having a guy in the room to talk to your superstars, to talk to your coaches, to try and get things done. For as much of a idiot as Jerry Jones can come off in the media as, it pays to have a Jerry Jones. Whenever there's a figurehead driving force in the room that is a majority owner, to sit there and talk to the superstars, and the authority in the room and the figurehead really do matter. Regardless of how bad the owner can be, having one is better than not having one. And maybe it's not all on Aaron. I think the GM sucks. I think not drafting any skill positions for years while you had Devontae Adams is a total miss on their part, and waiting until you've traded away your star asset to get a guy in Christian Watson. Because the thing is, there's plenty of teams that have their star receiver and they draft accordingly over the years with like 3rd, 5th, 6th round picks to bring in other talent on the perimeter. Because you know what helps whenever you're getting rid of your star receiver? Having someone that's played alongside them and learned from them. Like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams have learned from each other. Like we see out in Minnesota to a certain extent, because you had your Adam Thielen and he wasn't a high pick. And then you had Stephon Diggs who emerged and you traded Diggs. Now you have Jefferson, and Jefferson is great and he's learning from Thielen.
Even the Titans probably have 2 more wins if they still have A.J. Brown.
Yeah. It's crazy for teams to move one of the most important assets in football, because yes, quarterback, defensive line, corner, and like there are certain points where you have to hit to have a sustainable winning team. Quarterback, cornerback, offensive linemen are the 3 most important, but as of right now, wide receivers are king. They play longer, they're less injured, and they're just worth more contract to contract because of the extended longevity. And on paper, there's far less substantially better receivers than there are running backs. Running backs are far more replaceable than receivers, because running backs, they hit the holes. Receivers create separation. And losing a guy that is elite at any of the other talents at receiver, it's incredibly hard to do. It's hard to make up from. Thank God Justin Herbert scared that lineman. Herbert was closing in like a cartoon character, and homeboy said, I don't want to get hit by that dude. It pays whenever your quarterback's 6'6". The Chargers almost gave this game away. Season from hell continues. Austin Jackson is done for the year. Fractured kneecap and MCL sprain. Welcome to the Chargers community, my friends. Not much to say about the game besides Cameron Dicker is the kicker for this team until hopefully Red Rifle Dustin Hopkins comes back. A win is a win. Did I expect it to be this close? Yeah, after Cordero Patterson got announced that he was playing, I was like, shit, this doesn't sound good. Patterson hit stick somebody for a touchdown, scored another one later on. Mariota didn't make any mistakes to kill them, but it really helps whenever your quarterback can pass for over 200 yards. Herbert made the throws. The one pick looks bad. Palmer should have caught it. Go Chargers. Staley, you're safe for another week. 5-3 with the worst injury luck of any team in the NFL. I don't see it getting better, so I'm just going to soak it in. A win is a win. We're 5-3. I cannot complain.
Yeah, I really don't have a ton to say here. Cordero Patterson being back is great for Atlanta. But the Chargers needed to win this game very desperately. They are annihilated across the board. Like you said, Austin Johnson, all these guys across the board are
the only offseason addition that has stayed healthy besides Sebastian Joseph Day is
Kyle
Khalil
Van Noy. Oh.
And Khalil Mack. Like in terms of impact additions, Kyle Van Noy was a great piece to add, don't get me wrong. But he wasn't some like franchise altering addition. He's swapped teams like 3 straight seasons. But yeah, Mac showed us his worth with that strip of Drake London when he took it down the sideline like 40 yards. Khalil Mack is insane, worth every draft pick we traded for him. He has been absolutely amazing. But yeah, the Chargers got it done whenever they needed to. Cameron Dicker, first 2 games in the NFL, his rookie season, he's sunk 2 game winners. So bright future for that guy.
Kicker, baby.
Dicker the kicker. But yeah, heck of a game. Mike and Keenan get healthy. Joey, we miss you. So that's it for me on that one.
Are the Jets for real? Does this put them in the conversation now that they're for real?
Their defense is for real. Their offense is god-awful. Michael Carter's really good. We've known Michael Carter can be really good for at least 2 seasons now. James Robinson, I'm not leaning towards he's really good. I'm leaning towards he's kind of replaceable. I don't see him being a factor in this offense. Once Breece Hall comes back, I think it's Carter and Hall, and it's not close. Garrett Wilson's a dude. Like, I'm not going to lie. Garrett Wilson is a dude. And I mean that in the highest of praises. He's 8 twitchy.
Receptions, 92 yards.
Dude can move. For everyone in the Fantasy Football Start Sit show, Elijah Moore didn't have a reception. So, yeah, thank you, Robert Saleh.
Somebody made a highlight video, and it was just like the 3 plays that he was in motion on.
Yeah, the Jets defense is the real deal, man. They are really good, and we expected them to be better whenever you added.
I will say Sauce Gardner is getting away with being a little too friendly, but
that last play, that last play looked a little. I'll probably toss the flag.
That's not the first time we felt like Sauce Gardner got away with it, but I mean, at this
Superstars
point,
get superstar calls. Like, it's early in his career, but the dude. His name's Sauce. Like,
I mean, he was drafted 4th overall. He was drafted to be an elite corner. So to call him a superstar is like
in college. He didn't give up a single touchdown in college. He's literally got this aura built into him, and he plays extremely well. He got a pick off of Josh Allen. Allen threw 2 picks. Allen's elbow might be done for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see.
But the Jets defense has been here all season. Zach Wilson hasn't. And take that as you will. He did not throw this game away, for lack of better terms. It's kind of the Zach Wilson experience this year. If Wilson can avoid throwing interceptions, they can compete with anybody. If Zach Wilson,
Jimmy Garoppolo experience all over again? Are we going to be talking about quarterback wins with Zach Wilson? Because tell me if I'm wrong, but every time the Jets win for the rest of the way, you and I are going to say, well, Zach Wilson didn't turn over the ball and you didn't lose him the game. That's going to be the biggest story every single time, because Zach Wilson threw for 300 yards last week, but he lost. Throws for 154 this week, and he wins. Michael Carter,
Yeah.
12 carries for 76 yards. James Robinson, 3 for 48. Zach Wilson, 5 for 24. Like I said, I really like Zach Wilson's escapability. I think he can keep a lot of plays alive, but then he ends up trying to do too much. And that's kind of what got him in trouble in against New England last week.
Yeah.
But it just shows that like he's not what they were expecting when he drafted him at all.
Well, Zach Wilson is a guy that went to a smaller school. I've talked about this last week.
Yeah.
He played against lesser competition in a COVID-shortened year. Like, what did we expect him to do at the NFL level whenever he's playing against world-class athletes? The thing about the Jets this season that I expected was that Robert Saleh was going to have an improved defense. He was the ringleader of the top defense in the NFL whenever the Niners made their Super Bowl run. There's a reason why this defense works. It's because Saleh is the man at the helm. And they had a great offseason. And they've had guys that are officially finally healthy. CJ Mosley is playing games. Quinnen Williams is playing games. Like, they're healthy in a way that they have not been since Saleh took over. Quan Alexander is having a good year. We talk a lot about Michael Carter, the running back. They have a corner named Michael Carter, defensive back. This team is playing really well. They even have guys like Sheldon Rankins, who was a highly touted prospect coming out of college. And this defense not only has depth, but they have talent oozing out of the seams. They feel a lot like some of those Ravens teams from the early 2000s, where you had a quarterback, where you weren't sure he was going to win you games. But if Zach Wilson can avoid losing weekly for this team, they can compete with a lot of these teams in the NFL. And it helps them.
They were 2 for 2 on fourth down, ran the same amount of plays, only allowed 2 sacks, only had to punt the ball 3 times, 3 penalties for 30 yards, and they won time of possession by 5.5 minutes. They only turned over the ball once with 1 fumble lost.
The biggest thing with this team, because whenever they had Breece Hall and Elijah Vera Tucker, they were a contender. Regardless of how you felt about the Jets, losing them definitely sets expectations a little bit lower. But if they can play if they can play to the field, play to trying to keep themselves in range for field goals, rag the leg. Zerline has been a great kicker for most of his career, inconsistent at times, but he has a cannon. And as long as you can give your defense the opportunity to get stops and you can hold leads, this team is going to be competitive, especially in their own division for, I would think, rest of season, as long as Zach Wilson cannot regress on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I agree. I think this team is very good. Robert Saleh talked about it when he got hired last offseason. I thought it was a really insanely good hire for the Jets, and I think they were moving on the way up. They arguably had one of the best first rounds, if not the best drafts, in the last 20 years. They had an insanely good draft. They still have oh no, they're out of picks. Okay, they've already. I thought they had another first round pick next year along with theirs, but they're all out of that. But
this is their first 4 picks in this year's draft. They got Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson, and Breece Hall. All 4 of those players have been impact guys this year. Breece being out for the year is a huge loss.
And when
we
say impact, we mean impact, like massive.
Breece Hall was producing as the top 10 back 3 weeks into his career.
Yep.
Like, insanely talented players getting drafted at the right spots. It's all signs are pointing up. And even if Zach Wilson isn't the guy, we see what they can do with a guy like a Zach Wilson. They're 6-3 right now. That's a major improvement. That there was a point this offseason where I thought the Jets might get 6 wins the entire season.
I mean, they still can.
That's fair, but that would be insane. Speaking of insanity.
You like that?
You like that. I thought Kirk Cousins was going to have a brain hemorrhage after they won that game because, hell hath no fury like a quarterback scorned. He said, you wanted me or RG3, you chose me. You didn't like me enough, so you moved me to the Vikings. It's like that one meme. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Kirk Cousins' villain origin story has been completed. Taylor Heineke, once again, congratulations for being Washington's favorite quarterback.
He's not good.
Less than 150 yards, but he threw 2 scores.
Which, oh, for the love of God, how does he get a touchdown when he throws it when he Hail Marys it practically into triple coverage because the referee tripped one of the fucking defenders. That play right there is the epitome of Taylor Heineke. I feel like he gets away with this crap all year. You want to come at me and say, yeah, he's 2-1 as a starter. Taylor Heineke lives off the fact that he sucks for the whole game, but luckily his defense kept him in long enough for him to have a game-winning drive, and he wins 17-13. Taylor Heineke is not good. He's not good. I don't know how many times I have to say this. He's a cool story out of the XFL. He had a couple good games, but they traded for Carson Wentz for a reason, and now all of a sudden we're back on the Heineke train. It's a joke.
They gave him an extension. He's already got the extension.
If Washington continues to want to continue to be a joke like this in my division, go for it. They're a joke. Taylor Heineke is not good. And, like, you could sit there all you want and be like, oh, you sit in a chair and do this and I'll do that. Yeah, so does every other analyst in the history of fucking sports. Taylor Heineke's not good, man. He has poorly timed picks. He makes bad decisions and somehow gets bailed out by a referee tripping a defender. Because his defense keeps him in it, his game-winning drive all of a sudden makes him a top, one of the favorite quarterbacks in Washington. Sure, let him be your favorite quarterback. If you guys want to keep starting Taylor Heineke for the rest of your days, please keep doing that.
This is just the Vikings are a better team. I think they played down to competition a little bit. Kirk had a really good day, 265 yards, 2 scores, and a pick. They should just schedule all of his games for 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because, man, he is prime time in non-prime time matchups. Dalvin Cook, pedestrian day on the ground, 17 for 47. Had an insane touchdown catch in the back corner of the end zone, one-handed. Justin Jefferson continues to do Justin Jefferson things, and TJ Hawkinson fits in to Minnesota just like Kyle Rudolph used to. I don't know why I was like kind of low on him this week for fantasy purposes. It makes sense that Kirk would throw the ball his way. Kevin O'Connell's got this offense humming, and it's really hard to see them getting slowed down unless they match up. Kevin O'Connell's the coach. I said Kyle Rudolph. I said Kyle Rudolph in terms of like their tight end production. Prior to Hawkins.
I was like, wait a minute. I thought Kyle Rudolph was a Buck.
No, he is now. But the thing was, back in the day, Kyle Rudolph was Kirk Cousins' best friend in the second Minneapolis Miracle. Whenever it was,
that's probably why they got TJ Hawkinson. To be honest,
Kirk Cousins loves tight ends. I'm pretty sure in who was it up in Washington? Whenever he was formerly commander. A not so commander back in the day. I think it was Jordan Reed. He made him into like a really valuable asset. Kirk Cousins throws to his tight end.
Fuck, that's gonna kill me. I feel like you're so close when you say Jordan Reed. Man, that's gonna kill me now.
2017 or 2016 would be the year.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Season interview tight ends. Was Vernon Davis playing for Washington?
That's at one point he did, yeah, but that's not who. Maybe we're talking like 2018,
2017 Commanders Pro Bowler Jordan Reed, yeah. But
his name is Jordan Reed. I was thinking it was something different, but it was.
And he also had Vernon Davis in 2016. Kirk Cousins has a history of throwing the ball well to tight ends. Irv Smith has been injured here and there, so bringing in Hawkinson, Kirk loves his tight ends is the point I'm getting at. Kevin O'Connell is going to use Hawkinson because tight ends play to Kirk's strengths. Kirk likes to sit in the pocket and attack defenses. He's not going to give you the 20-yard scamper from last week every week. It's just not going to happen. Ron Rivera, your head is on the chopping block. He and Cliff Kingsbury are the top 2 candidates besides the new guys and Josh McDaniels and Nathaniel Hackett. Because I think McDaniels is the next guy to get fired. I think McDaniels sucks. He's the worst coach in the NFL, and I don't think it's close.
We're almost to that game, so let's move on and we'll get close to that game because this one will be quick. Joe Mixon scored 5 touchdowns, and Baker Mayfield threw for 2 after PJ Walker got benched. So
I didn't face any Joe Mixon in fantasy this year for this week. I avoided Joe Mixon. I had 9 leagues.
Personally, yes. You and I together faced Joe Mixon.
One of 9. I just didn't look at the matchup. You texted me, and I was like, well, I'm not a part of this league right now. I have my 8 leagues where I'm not facing him, where I can just smile. But yeah, no. Send flowers to your Joe Mixon. Send flowers to the person who faced Joe Mixon. They need to pick
The
me up.
man who
Yeah.
scored 3 touchdowns all year scores 5 in a game. Joseph Mixon, 22 carries, 153 yards, 4 touchdowns, adding in 4 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he had a
Good
day.
performance after getting beat by the Bears in prime time.
It's a way to bounce back, that's for sure.
I mean, they needed that bounce back more than anybody in the league. They had to beat the Panthers. Joe Burrow, 206 for a touchdown. He didn't really need to do much anyways. Shout out Brandon Allen, 3 for 3 for 22 yards. Baker Mayfield, 14 for 20, 155 and 2 touchdowns. So glad he can do it now instead of when he was the actual starter. So that never makes sense to me. Like, doesn't it always seem common that, like, when you have this kind of situation, you have a starter, he gets benched, and then when he has to come in for a cleanup game, he does well. It's like when Mitch Trubisky kept Tom Brady off the field and finished off Tom Brady. Like, it's just so weird how those things happen. Like, I know Kenny Pickett is still going to be the starter, but now Baker Mayfield's starting on Thursday. So we just continue the carousel. Sam Darnold got activated. So when is Sam Darnold going to see the field? Because he's going to see the field. I feel it in my bones.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a whole lot of the same. You get middling quarterback play, and then you go to the next middling quarterback. So Carolina is just basically plug and play for less than stellar quarterback play. The Bengals kicked the Panthers' teeth in. We didn't expect anything less.
Hindsight is 2020, but is not taking Justin Fields over J.C. Horn one of the biggest misses they could have had.
I don't know if Justin Fields does more with the Panthers than he's doing with the Bears. Matt Rule was the worst head coach in the NFL for 3 straight years.
Fair.
Their front office is useless. I don't think he gets used appropriately. The thing about the Bears right now is Eberflus is actually playing to Fields' strengths, which is what you have to do with mobile quarterbacks. There's a reason why the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson, and there's a reason why Lamar Jackson has succeeded. They've catered their offense to the skill set of their signal caller. I think Matt Rule would set up Justin Fields under center like he does with every single one of his quarterbacks. And the interim guy, congrats to him. I don't think Justin Fields is better off in Carolina. I don't think Carolina is better off for having Justin Fields. Their defense is great. Their offensive line sucks. Their coordinators have sucked. McCaffrey's cool, but he's been hurt the last 2 years. DJ Moore's inconsistent. I don't know. Their problems are deeper than just getting the guy at quarterback. Because even Justin Fields, for as good as he's played this year, is anybody certain he's the guy? Like, he's a guy, but I don't know if he's the guy.
Yeah. I think recency bias is huge on Justin Fields right now. We'll get to him, in a second, but like, as what he's doing right now is absolutely insane. I can't discredit that, but recency bias is a thing.
But speaking of the guy, Austin, the Jags got their man. That's twofold, even threefold. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk. I'm high on Lawrence, always will be high on Lawrence. I know he was a little bit overrated coming out of college, but he's the real deal. He fits the profile. He's like 6'6". He's got a cannon of an arm, and he's smart. The problem he's had so far this year is trying to do too much within the offense. He's a guy that likes to win the game. That's the thing about Trevor Lawrence. He wants to win, and he's going to make some plays, 2 or 3 of them each game, where he's trying to win, and it's just not a throw he's going to be able to make due to the situation. But no picks, 235 yards. He missed 6 total throws, and he threw for a touchdown. Pair that up with Josh McDaniels blowing a 17-point lead, Derek Carr being borderline unplayable in the second half, and Travis Etienne showing us why James Robinson is expendable. Like, the Jaguars are good. Their defense, it's good. You got guys. You got Foyesade Oluokun. You've got freaking Trayvon Walker. You've got some serious talent on defense out here. Devin Lloyd was taken like late first round, early second. Like, this is a very talented team, a very young, talented team. And the Raiders continue to just do the same shit.
Well,
Different week.
this is another franchise where it's like, I don't know where they go from here. Their defense is terrible. It's
Yep.
fucking awful. Derek Carr was a man on a mission in the first half and looked like he couldn't hit the broadside of the barn in the second half. And they have the number 3 overall pick right now, and they kind of have to spend it on probably the best defensive guy available.
Yeah.
Because you already know that if everything stayed pat right now, which is I don't think Las Vegas finishes with the number 3 overall pick. I think they finish in the top 10, but not number 3. But let's say they finish with number 3. Stroud, Young, gone. So then you're
Yeah.
probably taking Will Anderson.
Will Anderson. Yeah.
At that point.
I think
But the next thing is, what do you do? You already gave. I'm sorry. But you gave Derek Carr his guy in Devontae Adams. Josh Jacobs went on an absolute tear for 3 consecutive weeks.
And they didn't pick up the 5th-year option for Jacobs, which blows my mind. Like, I get it if you don't want to sign him to a lucrative extension, but he's a solid running back on a rookie scale contract. Like, Josh Jacobs has been electric. He's been the best player on the Raiders for most of the year. But we don't want to pick up his option. Like, I get Daniel Jones. I get not picking up your quarterback's 5th-year option because you could franchise tag them, or for a player like Daniel Jones, you can give him market value, which is like less than top money. But with a guy like Jacobs having this year, someone's going to pay him. Like, I'd be very surprised if someone doesn't pay him. He's played extremely well given circumstances. This Raiders line is not good. My biggest thing with former Oakland Raiders, now Las Vegas Raiders, all of it's self-inflicted. Them drafting a Will Anderson, it's like, why did you ever trade Khalil Mack in the first place? I get why you did. You didn't want to pay him. But you shelled out big contracts. You just signed Chandler Jones to a mega deal for him to give you just absolutely nothing in production. He's got you half a sack so far this season. Max Crosby's a nice piece, but they take these proven entities and these proven talents. Because in the NFL, I think proven players mean far more than draft picks ever do. We're seeing it with the Devontae Adams trade. We're seeing it with the Eagles getting A.J. Brown. The Dolphins getting Tyreek Hill, and even flipping that relationship. The Niners drafting Trey Lance and giving up picks to the Dolphins to get Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Like, make it make sense. Bradley Chubb is a part of that deal now for the Dolphins. Like, draft picks work if you're a smart franchise. The Raiders are not a smart franchise. They haven't been for a while. And that's the biggest problem. They waste high value picks on players they either believe far too much in or players they should not believe in. They took an offensive lineman in the first round, Alex Leatherwood, 2 years ago. He's no longer on the team. Just cut. Jonathan Abrams was cut. There's no consistency. There's no actual long-term planning. And it's costing this team whatever window they thought they had. Because Carr is not bad. He's not elite. He's not great, but he's not bad. Derek Carr's above average at quarterback, and he shrinks in huge moments, give or take.
Well, and the thing is, the best chance that the Raiders had in the last 20 years, they started Connor Cook in a playoff game.
Yeah.
And he went 18 for 45. But at what you have already pushed the chips all in. There's no doubt about that. You signed Chandler Jones. You got Devontae Adams. Max Crosby is a great defensive end. But the rest of your defense is awful. Your quarterback can't show up half of the time or when it matters. Your head coach has extremely questionable play calling. So what now? Can you ship Derek Carr?
No, you can't at this point for anything of like tremendous value. That the Packers are in a good position because they could flip Aaron Rodgers for 2 first-round picks if they would like to. Aaron Rodgers holds a very good amount of value for a contending team. Derek Carr is like a worse version of Kirk Cousins on the trade market. Like what the Vikings had to move to get Kirk Cousins, you're getting less for Derek Carr. A big thing for me and this team is, what did we expect a franchise that got rid of their playoff-bound head coach for a guy that has not been a winning NFL? He's the only time Josh McDaniels has ever won anything is at the feet of Bill Belichick. Rich Bisaccia was thrown into a terrible situation due to some terrible circumstances and pulled that squad to a playoff berth. Regardless of how it happened, all the respect to Rich Bisaccia. He led that team to the playoffs. And to be fair, he did not lose that playoff game against the Bengals. That team played to Cincinnati pretty much the entire game, and that Tyler Boyd touchdown changes the coaching career of Bisaccia. The fact that they fired him after the playoff berth blew my mind. Lovie Smith won like one game for the Texans last year, and he got an extension. Like, Bisaccia getting fired was that, and exactly for Barack Obama. Rich wasn't the answer, but that's the problem. You don't fire the guy that just made the playoffs to move to a guy that's never made the playoffs. Like,
honestly, the only reason why we don't talk about it enough is because Nathaniel Hackett exists.
Exactly.
Two of these teams in this division are completely screwed at the moment.
Like, I feel like the Raiders today, obviously Rich is not your be-all, end-all, but I'm not firing a guy that the players play for. We know this. And he's won games going in with probably a worse team around them. The team that they have currently under McDaniels is a better team than what Bisaccia had last year. And I don't think that's arguable whatsoever. So McDaniels has to be worse than what Rich was. And I don't think that's even like an argument at this point. I hated the McDaniels hiring whenever it happened. I've hated any speculation of Josh McDaniels as a head coach since he was fired in Denver. We've seen it once in this same division. There's no need to run it back with a different franchise.
And the thing is, too, they've blown the games. That's the problem. Their losses have looked so bad.
The
against
Raiders,
Arizona. Go for it.
From like the stats said like from the 1950s to like 2022 to 2021, the Raiders had blown 5 17-point leads in their franchise history. They have blown 3 games of having a 17-plus point lead this season alone. The defense does suck, yes. But the defense sucked last year, and the offense was worse on a grand scheme. Obviously, Waller was healthy, which helps, but you have Devontae Adams. Jacobs is playing out of his mind. Derek Carr,
10 for 146 against
Jacksonville. The problem is you either get Matt Collins or Devontae Adams, but never both. So,
true,
but yeah, it's bleak in Vegas right now. Ideally, I would love to have the top 3 pick if I were the Raiders. You still have Derek signed. You still have Devontae Adams. They're not that old. So,
it seems at this point, Josh McDaniels is destined to be fired because I don't think I just gotta show this. 3 17-point losses one season, insane. 3 8 games historically bad. It's terrible. The season's halfway over. You still got 9 more games to go.
I thought it was very hard to lose in extremely bad fashion, and I'm a Chargers fan, and I've been hating on Cliff Kingsbury for the better part of 4 years. Josh McDaniels has one-upped Cliff Kingsbury in that respect. The way that they lose games is it's just not fathomable to my brain. It is absolutely crazy.
And so here's where I'm at. So we're pretty convinced at this point Josh McDaniels should not have a job at the end of the year. Or once the year ends, fire him the next day. Whatever. If he sees throughout the whole season, whatever. But then you have to implement a whole nother system next year and you expect it to work immediately. I just really don't know. They are so tied to going all in and they're 2-6. Yeah, I mean, the fumble in overtime. So I was watching football with Baraka yesterday. And on the last play or on the last drive of the game, 2nd and 2, they throw a fade or something to Devontae Adams. Just run the ball.
Yeah.
Just get the first down, get a new set of downs, and move on. We were talking about that over and over. And it's what are you doing?
Yeah, even if you don't get it on second and 2, you can always throw that fade on 3rd down. But it's a lot harder just by running on 3rd. Yeah.
But yeah, being all in and being 2-6 is I really don't know what they do from here. I really don't. Justin Fields is insane, but Tyreek Hill is just a little bit more insane.
Tyreek Hill is the MVP of the NFL currently. I think Tyreek Hill is the single most valuable player to any team on the season this year. What he has done through 9 games is nobody's done it before. He's the fastest player to reach 1,000 yards receiving in the NFL's history ever. He's a weekly 100-yard. He's a weekly 6 to 7 receptions, 100+ yards and a score. he makes this offense go. And as good as Jalen Waddle is, Tyreek has been better. And I was low on Tyreek leaving Kansas City.
Yeah.
He's been worth every penny of that extension. And I love that we're in the reality where Tyreek didn't make Patrick and Patrick didn't make Tyreek. They're just
Right.
both excellent football players. But yeah, no, this game was crazy. Austin, if you want to go ahead, just let it out because, man, the Bears, they're cooking with peanut oil. They're having a good year.
Justin Fields, 17 for 28 for 123 yards and 3 touchdowns. But that is not the stat that matters the most. 15 carries, 178 yards, surpassing Michael Vick's 173 yards in the 2006 NFC divisional game, I believe. Most rushing by a quarterback in a game. And a
Regular
touchdown
season. Colin Kaepernick's Packers game in the NFC playoffs still holds the record, I think, by like 4 or 5 yards in terms of like
Maybe
most
I read
yards.
the tweet wrong then, but still,
rushing yard.
it's nuts.
Single game. Yeah, it's insane.
The Bears at 3-6 are probably one of the better 3-6 teams right now that have an okay future. They still don't have a ton of pieces, but to see what Justin Fields is doing right now is really huge. Obviously, it's not sustainable in the slightest. Obviously, his passing numbers are still not outstandingly great, and that's a field that he needs to improve. No pun intended. But to go on this insane run right now kind of shows what the offense can look like when you conform it around what Justin Fields can be. And you can say the same about Tua Tagovailoa. You conform the offense around what Tua can do, and that's accurate throws. And he's short throws to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had 7 receptions for 143 yards. Jalen Waddle had 5 for 85. But everyone wants to focus on the underthrown ball to Jalen Waddle to ice the game. Because that's just not the quarterback that Tua is. He's not going to heave the ball all day long. He's a short, accurate, medium-type thrower, and he has the playmakers to succeed. They haven't lost a game that he has finished and started.
Yeah, Tua has been absolutely insane this year. It helps whenever you have the weapons. I gave Joe Burrow a lot of crap last year with having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Weapons matter. And it's been proven again with Tua. Tua's a solid quarterback. He was drafted top 5 for what we're saying. And McDaniel has done a great job constructing the offense. Credit to Barack Obama for the point. McDaniel's been great. He's a very, very bright mind. And back to my point earlier about Fields, he missed the mark by Kaepernick for the NFL's most rushing yards in a single game by a quarterback by 3 yards. Kaepernick in 2013 went off for 181 on the ground. Jeez. Still insane. But yeah, no, McDaniel, he has the offense humming. Jeff Wilson came in a week with the team, receiving touchdown, if I'm correct. Yeah, they're a well-oiled machine, and these Niners coordinators just seem to keep translating in this coaching carousel that we call the NFL.
All right, we'll move quickly here, so I got to get out of here pretty soon. So I'll trash Cliff Kingsbury real quick. I'm going to sit here and defend Kyler Murray for a second because you may want to make the short jokes, the Call of Duty jokes, whatever. He's 0-2 since Call of Duty came out, whatever. My man never had a single time to throw the ball in his entire game. It is a joke how bad that offensive line is. Credit to the Seattle Seahawks pass rush because Kyler Murray never had a chance to get a read ever at all. But at that point, Cliff Kingsbury needs to make second half adjustments and throw the ball more short, run the ball more, do literally anything. James Conner had 7 carries for 45 yards. Kyler Murray had 8 carries for 60 yards. James Conner was averaging 6.5. Kyler Murray was averaging 7.5. Granted, some of those are Kyler Murray scrambles and not technically designed quarterback runs, but they weren't doing terrible running the ball. But Kyler Murray still threw the ball 35 times in a game they were never down by more than 1 score until Ken Walker iced it.
Yep.
Cliff Kingsbury sucks. He doesn't make adjustments. He does the same thing over and over again, and it's depressing to watch. And to say that Kyler Murray isn't in it or in this whatever, Kyler Murray is still a top 10 quarterback, and it's not particularly close. I would love to have Kyler Murray as my quarterback. I got Dak Prescott, so I can't complain. But, Kyler Murray would be pretty fucking good as a Dallas Cowboy. I'm not going to, not going to bat at that. But you and I have talked about it for so long that Cliff Kingsbury has had elite quarterbacks his entire coaching career and has yet to succeed.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury had the season of the gods last year. Arizona came out hot. They came out like Philadelphia has come out this year, but Philadelphia feels far more sustainable. The Cardinals defense was never really that great. Whenever J.J. Watt's the top 3 guy on your billboard, you don't feel super secure in how your team is going to be moving forward. Isaiah Simmons helped this game stay close with that pick 6 off of Geno Smith, but the Cardinals defense sucks, and their offensive line is doing Kyler no favors. There was like 3 high snaps in that game that almost cost them turnovers, cost them a crazy amount of yardage. But yeah, Cliff does less with more comparatively to every other coach in the NFL. Kyler Murray is he's one of the last first overall picks to really live up to that name. He was Rookie of the Year. He's been a Pro Bowler every year that he's played. He's electric. He's one of the most dynamic players in football, even at his size. He keeps drives alive. He was scampering around the entire game. He had that one big fumble where the ball kind of just slipped out whenever he was running, but he made that play happen with his legs in a way that I don't think a lot of guys can. And it sucks watching Kyler have to toil away in this wasteland. Granted, he signed the deal, so, you did it to yourself. But I think
you reap what you sow.
Cliff's days are numbered. They've given Kyler plenty of weapons. The offensive line is garbage, and the coaching's even worse. And whenever you have a defense that breaks more than it bends, it's not a winning formula. It worked out last year because they were hot, and their offense was operating at all-time levels, in my opinion. Like Hopkins was great. Connor was the comeback story of the year, damn near. Like everything went right. And so far, nothing has gone right for this offense. And I think it's more so due to the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is not a good NFL coach comparatively than just Kyler Murray not getting enough sleep because he plays too much Call of Duty. That's overblown. It's dumb. Kyler is the franchise. Cliff is not.
Yeah, I really think it's as simple as that.
I love ugly football. That's what this game was. It was sad. It was just sad.
It was so bad. These are 2 franchises that are really gonna start burrowing into the ground pretty soon, to their own fault of leveraging future and Tampa Bay not really, but Tampa Bay's coaching and line is god awful. The Rams mortgaged their future. They got the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay got their Super Bowl, so I can cut them some slack here. They got what they wanted in the end. But man, the Rams look terrible. Tom Brady looks terrible with some of the best weapons in the game. I'm really starting to question Todd Bowles. We talked about Bruce Arians being like the mastermind, and he really was. Bruce Arians was a really great head coach, and I think him leaving along with Gronkowski is probably the 2 biggest blows to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, 100%. I do think a problem here, like for as bad as Matthew Stafford has been this year, there were a lot of drops by the Rams this week. Van Jefferson went from this team's wide receiver 3 to being a man that plays with 3 fingers the way he was trying to catch balls this weekend. It was bad. Stafford was worse. 13 for 27 is egregious, especially for a guy that you mortgaged your entire future upon. I get his elbows banged up, but he completed the ball 13 times in this game, and 8 of them went to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is great, but he's not going to win competitive football games all by himself. And you pair that with Darrell Henderson and the ghost of Malcolm Brown appearing for 2 carries. It's just not a winning formula. Cam Akers came in 5 carries, 0.6 yards a carry. This team sucks. Sean McVay got his ring, but they're old. They're hurt. Their line sucks. Stafford's elbow may never be the same, and their running backs just don't produce anything relatively close to tangible football. It's Cooper Kupp and everybody else on this team. The defense is really good. Losing Von Miller for Bobby Wagner is the biggest thing that hurts them. Ramsey and Donald can only do so much, and we're seeing the effect.
They are an extremely one-dimensional team. Their defense is kind of beat up. It's old, like you said. It's still good, but it's not what it used to be. Their line is beat up. They cannot run the ball at all. They have 0 run game whatsoever, and Cooper Kupp is the offense. 127 yards on 8 catches. That was practically the entire offense, like you said. They are 3-5 for a reason. They don't have a first-round pick. I think the window is just about closed at this point if this continues. I don't really see how they turn it around. They did not make any impactful trades at the deadline. There's nowhere really for them to go at this point.
McVay has openly stated that once Kupp, Stafford, Ramsey, and Donald are done, effectively he's done in Los Angeles. Like, he's kind of put a date on his window as well. So I don't think McVay cares about the future. I don't think Les Snead cares about the future. They've been outwardly outspoken about, we care about right now and we care about the window. And once that window's closed, I don't think anyone's going to take accountability for the actions that were made. I think we're in for a very ugly period of Los Angeles Rams football once shit hits the fan.
Well, yeah, and see, they feel to go for it.
Brady got his swagger back. They threw the ball 58 times. He had 36 completions. While it was not beautiful and it was not Tampa Bay football that we've seen over the years, Brady's arm can still do it. He's 45 years old, threw it for 280 yards. He's the first 100,000-yard quarterback in football. Can we get a round of applause for Tom? Great job. The running game sucks. It's god-awful. The offensive line sucks. Jensen retired, and they lost like 3 pieces of the offensive line this offseason. Kappa, Jensen, like it's ugly out there for them. Cade Otton has stepped up in a big way for this offense at the tight end spot. Scotty Miller appearances happened. Mike Evans and Godwin have to get going moving forward, and I think they eventually will. The Buccaneers are the best team in their division. It's not as by a wide margin as we thought it was coming to the year, but the Bucs are bouncing back.
Real low.
They're bouncing back, and I think this is something that we hoped to see. And them beating the Rams, I feel like, should be the start of them trying to gather whatever momentum they can get.
The Rams feel like, to me, what the Colts should have done. The Rams got what they wanted. They won their Super Bowl. Colts didn't. They're both going in the same direction at this point.
The Colts should have traded for Matthew Stafford the season before the Rams did.
Or even a better quarterback than Matt Stafford that might have been available. They literally, like, I don't want to dog Phillip Rivers. You love Phillip Rivers. I love Phillip Rivers, but
it's my quarterback.
Stafford would have been a great piece. The Colts, it's like looking in a mirror to me. But the Colts don't have the Super Bowl to show for it. The Rams do. That's why you said they don't really care. They got what they wanted in the end. Championships are what matters the most. And now it's going to be some shitty football for the next decade, it feels like. But got the ring. You move on.
100%. Speaking of moving on.
Mike Vrabel is the greatest head coach in Oilers Titans history.
I think Mike Vrabel is going to get a lifetime contract, but whenever it's all said and done, Mike Vrabel is I apologize to Mike Vrabel for ever getting him confused with Frank Reich. This man has done more with less comparatively to any head coach in the NFL. He had the Chiefs on the brink with Malik Willis throwing the ball 16 times, not completing a single pass to a wide receiver. That is magical. In a game where Derrick Henry carried the ball the same amount of times, the same amount of points the team scored, it is absolutely insane to me. And I love every single moment of it.
Their pass rush is out of this world. Their pass rush is putting up pressure a third of the time. That's insane.
Jeffrey Simmons is the best defensive tackle not named Aaron Donald. Jeffrey Simmons is an alien. That man is so good at football. It is otherworldly how big and strong he is. Like, for all the credit Aaron Donald deserves in his career, Jeffrey Simmons is overlooked because the things he was doing on that field were just insane. Their linebackers, tenacious. This defense is underrated. For as bad as they have looked in the past in spots, this defense is here this year, and they're ready to play. And if Tannehill can get healthy, even with Willis, I think they could beat anybody in their division. But once Tannehill's back...
the Titans probably win this game with Ryan Tannehill.
You would like to think. Tannehill hits some receivers. This game just solidifies to me that Mahomes is the guy in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. As cool as Josh Allen is, as fun as Jalen Hurts is, there's all these other great guys. Mahomes is the guy. And
68 times.
He completed over 40 passes. This wasn't just a volume scoring type thing for Mahomes. He completed 40 passes, 400 and almost 50 yards, only one touchdown and a pick. Mahomes led the team in rushing. Everybody loves to geek out about Josh Allen. Everyone loves to geek out about how Josh Allen is like, oh, he's the running back one. Patrick Mahomes is everything for this team. And to think that he was going to regress because Tyreek Hill left, it makes us all look stupid. Because you could give him anybody. He's turning Mecole Hardman into a weekly fantasy start. And Mecole Hardman hasn't been usable his entire career in fantasy. Travis Kelce, like, yes, he was good with Alex Smith. He's a Hall of Famer with Patrick Mahomes. Juju Smith-Schuster, career revived. Jerick McKinnon has a roster spot because of guys like Patrick Mahomes. What he is doing is showing us what floor raising means at an NFL level. Because the Chiefs were good with Alex Smith. I think Andy Reid had a huge part to play in that. The Chiefs are great with Patrick Mahomes, and Andy Reid plays a part in it. But you can only do so much as a coach, and Patrick Mahomes raises the floor of everybody around him. And that makes the Chiefs' ceiling almost impossible to define. This team is probably the best in the AFC, and they still have ways to improve. If they can figure out their running game and the offensive line becomes consistent, good luck. Because I do not see a hole in the armor yet. They lost to the Bills, but the Bills have more problems than the Chiefs do. And the Chiefs are winning close games. The Bills couldn't do it this week. The Chiefs did. And
who's their other loss?
I do not remember. I cannot tell you. Probably feel stupid looking back at it, to be honest. So Chiefs schedule 2022. They lost to. So they beat the Cardinals, beat the Chargers, lost to the Colts.
Oh, that's right.
The Bills. Colts
they
and the
lost
Bills.
That game to the Colts. I forgot about that. That was wild.
They lost to the Colts. So the Chiefs are the Chiefs are great, man. And the thing is, for the longest time, they didn't have Butker. Yeah. And regardless of how you feel about him, he's a top 5 kicker in football. Dude's got a cannon, and his accuracy's here and there sometimes, but I can't name 5 guys that I'd want before I want Harrison Butker.
Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
That's about it.
It's like Tucker, and then you could have an argument for the next 4. I think it's like Butker, Bass. I like that guy up in Seattle. Jason Myers is really good at what he does.
Myers is super accurate, yeah.
I love Prater. He has a cannon. McManus has made a name for Graham Gano is in the conversation. That guy has been lights out for the last 2 years for the Giants. If you like big kicks, but not at a high volume, Koo isn't on that list. Daniel Carlson, that's probably
the Las Vegas Daniel Carlson.
Daniel Carlson's probably number 3. Yeah, he's 3 for sure. Yeah. No, I'd probably go Tucker, Carlson, Butker, Bass, McPherson, maybe. Maybe you could swap either of those 3.
Folk up there the way he kicks in New England.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Folk, 1, 2 feel like really locked in. Everything else is just a sliding scale of what you prefer.
Yeah. Daniel Carlson is a fucking monster.
The Ravens and Saints have not finished. It's 14-3 at half. The Ravens are winning. We told you guys so. Lamar Jackson is that guy.
Let's quickly go through the rematch of the wildest game you've ever done saw. Falcons Panthers.
Hulu has live sports, and the Falcons are going to be leading the division.
Right
for
there
like 10
you. Baker Mayfield
for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield starting. I'm not picking the Panthers. I probably wasn't picking the Panthers anyways, even if PJ Walker was starting. But
yeah,
Munich, Seahawks, Buccaneers,
Bucs. The Seahawks defense still isn't good. The Bucs offensive line sucks. Their defense showed up in a big way against the Rams. Granted, the Rams offense hasn't shown up in a big way since the Super Bowl, but I'm taking the Bucs. I think they're going to travel better. They have Tom Brady. He's probably played more games overseas than anybody on the Seahawks roster. And I don't know if they carry juicy fruit in Germany. So I think Pete Carroll might be having a down week. I got the Bucs. I just think they're
tough. I think the Bucs run defense is going to be what matters the most. I think Ken Walker's been a huge
and that's if he makes the flight. If Walker even makes the trip, he might not make the trip because of a lack of passport. I don't think he's going to miss the game, but it's
That'd be
something to
wild.
think about.
Lions,
Bears. I love
Bears.
Dan Campbell. I'm picking the Bears just because they're playing better football more consistently than the Lions have. I think the Lions could definitely keep up, but I do think the Bears have more juice going into this matchup. They have more to play for. They're not really in this sweepstakes for like a top pick, and they don't want a star quarterback. They probably are looking for a perimeter threat at receiver or a defensive piece. So, yeah, I'm going to go Bears. I think Eberflus is going to outcoach Campbell. So, yeah, I'll go Bears.
Yeah, I got the Bears too, especially with the way Justin Fields is me right now. Dolphins, Browns.
We could say Browns and be funny because Jacoby Brissett has the juju from his time with the Dolphins. I'm lying. Mike McDaniel's the head coach now. I'm going to go Dolphins. Browns defense showed up against Joe Burrow and that Bengals attack without Jamar Chase. The Browns don't have the fortune of missing Miami's top receiver. Tyreek Hill's been kicking ass and taking names, and Jalen Waddle's been kicking ass and chewing bubblegum, and sadly they're all out of names and bubblegum in Miami. So Tua's going to have a day. This offense is probably just going to have fun because the Browns don't have the capacity to shot for shot with an offense of this aptitude.
Titans, Broncos.
Titans. Picking against the Titans right now feels like sacrilegious. And Hackett can't hack it. And I'm not going to stop saying that until he's fired.
Titans. Bills, Vikings. I think we're both on the train of if Josh Allen plays, the Bills. If Josh Allen does not play, Minnesota.
I think I'm just going to pick Minnesota straight out.
Okay.
I don't think Allen plays in this matchup. And if he does play, it's a UCL injury. That's your elbow. We've given a lot to Matt Stafford in terms of his elbow struggles, even in the offseason. And what we've seen with quarterbacks whenever they're dealing with elbow issues is they're not really the same. They can't operate at that full they can't operate at that full trajectory. If Josh Allen plays, I will give the Bills their respect and pick them to win this game. But the Vikings have won 7 straight. And that's
6.
Real momentum. 6 straight. Okay. But
still,
the point remains, Josh Allen doesn't play, the Vikings are going to win this game flat out. If Josh Allen does play, I think the Bills have a chance, and I'd probably lean the Bills because Josh Allen provides more than just his arm. And he did throw it 70 yards on that final drive, and the elbow got hurt on that drive. Right. Adrenaline is a factor, but Allen's healthy. Give me the Bills. Allen doesn't start. Give me the Vikings.
All right, let's rattle off the rest of these, and we'll get on out of here.
Yep.
Giants, Texans. Giants. Chiefs, Jags.
Chiefs.
Saints, Steelers.
Saints.
Colts, Raiders.
Yeah, this feels like a trap game. I feel like the Colts could win for some stupid reason.
Well, they have a new head coach, so first week out.
But it's Jeff Saturday. I won't even call him a coach. He's more of like the you know what Jack Easterby was for the Texans? That's what Jeff Saturday feels like for the Colts. Their life coach.
Cardinals, Rams. I'm picking the Cardinals. I just get the Rams are so bad. They're both bad, but I'm going to pick the Cardinals.
In an act of solidarity, and for as much fun as it is to make fun of Cliff Kingsbury, they need to win this game. I'll go Cardinals. I want to make fun of Cliff some more. He's easy target.
Cowboys, Packers.
Cowboys. Anybody picking Green Bay either loves cheese or lives in Wisconsin. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Aaron Rodgers, 35 for 40, 567 yards, 8 touchdowns, no picks, because that's just what he does against Dallas. But I'll pick Dallas, obviously. If the worst defense in the league can do that to Aaron Rodgers, what is Micah Parsons going to do to Aaron Rodgers?
I'm scared. Chargers, Niners. I'm just going to forgo this pick. Can I just forfeit this pick? It's awkward to not pick my team on my show. So I'll pick the Niners, and if the Chargers win, great, because, they're my team. With the injuries that have piled up, losing Austin Johnson, there's no J.C. Jackson on the perimeter. Herbert's getting better, thankfully, but the Niners' defense is still damn near elite, even with injuries. And Christian McCaffrey and that running game are a problem, and we cannot stop the run.
Commanders, Eagles.
Washington shouldn't even fly out. Just don't waste the gas.
True. All right.
Taylor Heineke beats the Eagles to end their undefeated season.
To shut my mouth, pretty much. Yeah, I'm ready for it, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you always, everybody, for watching. We're here every Monday night at usually 6:30. We've been kind of early Mondays just because of some things coming to play. We'll be back at 6:30 next week Pacific time. We're here every Sunday morning, an hour before kickoff, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So we'll be there for live start sits. Usually, you can catch us always on Twitter. Like the video, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the channel to keep up with us all the time. Devin.
Hey, as always, thank you to everybody for joining in. We appreciate everybody for joining the podcast. To Barack Obama in the chat, thank you for joining in. We appreciate everybody's opinions and thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. You can always catch us here Mondays and Sundays. So if you got nothing left, Austin, I'm ready to send them off. Peace.